The moment Marcus Chin watched his late wife's heart rate flatline on the hospital monitor, something inside him flatlined too. The machines beeped their monotone song of finality while his 3-year-old daughter Emily slept in his arms, completely unaware that her mother would never sing her another lullaby, never braid her hair again, never be there for her first day of school. Marcus was 32 years old, a self-made tech millionaire who had built an empire from nothing, and yet in that sterile hospital room, surrounded by the smell of antiseptic and grief, he learned that all his money couldn't buy back a single breath, couldn't rewind time, couldn't fill the gaping hole that Sarah's death had torn through their lives. In the 3 years that followed, Marcus became two different people: the ruthless CEO who turned his software company into a billion-dollar enterprise, and the broken widower who tucked his daughter into bed every night and cried silently in the shower where she couldn't hear him. His penthouse apartment in downtown Seattle overlooked the glittering city lights, but inside those walls, it was just him and Emily against a world that suddenly felt impossibly vast and lonely. His mother, his sister, his well-meaning friends, they all said the same thing: Emily needs a mother figure, you need to move on, Sarah would have wanted you to be happy. And so, reluctantly, Marcus agreed to try dating again, but with one non-negotiable condition that no one else knew about: he would never, ever reveal his wealth until he was absolutely certain someone loved him for who he was, not what he had. The first blind date was with Amanda, a corporate lawyer his sister had set him up with at an upscale Italian restaurant. Marcus showed up in jeans and a plain sweater, driving his old college Honda that he'd kept in storage, claiming he worked in IT support and lived in a modest apartment. Amanda's face fell the moment she saw him, her eyes scanning his casual outfit with barely concealed disappointment. Throughout dinner, she checked her phone repeatedly, her answers becoming shorter and more dismissive as the evening wore on. When the check came and Marcus pulled out a coupon he'd printed from the internet, Amanda actually laughed, not kindly, and excused herself to the bathroom, texting his sister later that night that she wasn't interested in a struggling tech support guy with no ambition. The second date was worse. Jennifer, a real estate agent who wore designer everything, spent the entire evening talking about her clients' multi-million-dollar homes, her luxury car, her upcoming trip to the Maldives. When Marcus mentioned he took the bus to work to save money, she visibly recoiled, and when he suggested they split the check at the moderately priced Thai restaurant he'd chosen, she made an excuse about a sudden headache and left him sitting alone with 2 plates of pad thai growing cold under the fluorescent lights. The third, fourth, and fifth dates followed similar patterns: women who seemed interested when they thought they were meeting a successful businessman, who became cold and distant when faced with what they perceived as mediocrity. Marcus documented each failure in a journal he kept locked in his desk drawer, page after page of evidence that confirmed his worst fear: that in this world, love was transactional, that kindness was conditional, that no one would truly see him beneath the surface. If you believe in kindness and second chances, if you believe that real love exists beyond material things, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that restore faith in humanity. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love connecting with our amazing community from around the world. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more heartfelt content. Emily turned 6, then 7, and Marcus watched her grow into the spitting image of Sarah, the same deep brown eyes that sparkled when she laughed, the same stubborn chin, the same way of tilting her head when she was thinking hard about something. She asked about the dates sometimes, with that innocent directness that only children possess, wanting to know if Daddy had found a new friend, if maybe one of these ladies would come play Princess Tea Party with them, if maybe their house wouldn't feel so quiet anymore. Each time, Marcus would hug her tight and promise that he was still looking for someone very special, someone worthy of being part of their little family. But with each failed date, his hope diminished further. Date number 12 was particularly crushing: a woman named Rachel who seemed perfect at first, laughing at his jokes, seemingly unbothered by his claims of modest income, even suggesting a second date as they said goodbye. Marcus felt something flutter in his chest that he hadn't felt in years, a tiny spark of possibility. Then, 2 days later, Rachel called to cancel their next meeting, and through mutual friends, Marcus discovered she'd run a background check on him using his supposedly modest address, found inconsistencies, and decided he was either lying about something or just not worth her time. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. He was being rejected for lying about being poor when he was actually rich. By date number 19, Marcus had perfected his act. He'd memorized the bus schedule, learned to talk convincingly about budget grocery shopping and cutting coupons, even developed a whole backstory about his affordable neighborhood and his modest job at a small tech support firm. His driver waited blocks away with the Bentley, his credit card stayed home, and he became whoever each woman expected him to be, or rather, he became invisible to them the moment they realized he wasn't going to fund their champagne dreams. His best friend from college, David, begged him to stop this charade, insisted that he was only hurting himself, that the right woman wouldn't care about money anyway. But Marcus had seen too much, been disappointed too many times, and the protective wall around his heart had grown thick and impenetrable. He was teaching Emily that money didn't define worth, all while his own experiment was proving the opposite every single time. The contradiction haunted him during sleepless nights when he'd check on his daughter sleeping peacefully in her princess-themed bedroom, one tiny hand clutching the stuffed bear her mother had given her before she died. What kind of world was he bringing her up in? What kind of example was he setting? And yet, he couldn't stop, because stopping meant admitting defeat, meant accepting that he might raise Emily alone forever, meant surrendering the last shred of hope that somewhere out there existed a person with a genuine heart. Date number 23 was supposed to be just another disappointment at just another forgettable restaurant, but fate, it seemed, had different plans. The place was called Rosemary's Kitchen, a family-owned establishment tucked away on a quiet street in the Fremont neighborhood, the kind of restaurant that survived on loyal regulars rather than trendy marketing. Marcus had chosen it specifically because it was unpretentious, affordable, the kind of place that would fit his struggling IT guy narrative perfectly. His date, Christina, was already 15 minutes late, and Marcus sat at a corner booth checking his phone, wondering if he was being stood up for the first time in this whole ridiculous social experiment. The restaurant had a warm, lived-in feeling, checkered tablecloths that were clean but faded from countless washings, mismatched chairs that somehow worked together, walls covered in framed family photographs and children's drawings, the smell of garlic and fresh bread making his stomach growl despite his growing frustration. The dinner rush was in full swing, and the small staff was clearly overwhelmed, rushing between tables with the controlled chaos of people who were trying their best but simply didn't have enough hands. That's when he first saw her, Natalie Rodriguez, though he wouldn't learn her name until later. She moved through the crowded restaurant like a dancer, balancing 3 plates on one arm while simultaneously refilling a water glass and offering an apologetic smile to a table that had been waiting too long for their food. She was perhaps 28 or 29, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, minimal makeup revealing a face that was naturally beautiful in an understated way, wearing the restaurant's simple uniform of black pants and a white button-down that had seen better days. But it was her eyes that caught Marcus's attention, tired eyes, kind eyes, eyes that had seen struggle but hadn't hardened, eyes that apologized genuinely when she finally reached his table, breathless and flustered, explaining that their busboy had called in sick and 2 waitresses had quit last week and she was so sorry for the wait. Marcus found himself saying it was fine, really, no problem at all, and meaning it in a way he hadn't meant anything in a long time. She poured his water with hands that trembled slightly from exhaustion, and he noticed the band-aid on her thumb, the flour stain on her collar that she'd tried unsuccessfully to scrub out, the worn-down heels of her practical work shoes. When she smiled at him, thanking him for his patience, something in his chest tightened unexpectedly. Christina never showed up. After 45 minutes, Marcus received a text message claiming a work emergency, though he suspected the truth was far less dramatic. She'd probably looked up the restaurant online, seen the modest prices, and decided her time was better spent elsewhere. Ordinarily, Marcus would have paid his bill and left, checking another failure off his list, returning to his empty penthouse and his sleeping daughter and his growing collection of reasons to give up entirely. But something kept him in that booth. Maybe it was the way Natalie kept glancing over apologetically, as if his date's absence was somehow her fault. Maybe it was the genuine warmth of the restaurant, so different from the pretentious establishments he usually chose for these doomed meetings. Maybe it was simple loneliness, the bone-deep exhaustion of pretending, The need to just sit somewhere that felt real for a little